What's up, everybody?
What is up, YouTube? My Cowboys family here, bringing you guys. There we go. Oh, oopsie.
You got the.
I was like, was that the dog? There we go. So great. Audio works awesome. Thank you guys for joining us here tonight. Yes, kicking off a brand new week here at My Cowboys Family. So take a second to hit like on your way in. Subscribe if you haven't already. Of course, follow us anywhere, everywhere, all social media.
And hit the notification bell, of course. Don't forget that one, too. And follow us on all social platforms. Twitter, the main one, at My Cowboys Family. We got Discord.
Yes, the link for that is in the description box down below. But, of course, guys, you already know if you have joined us here before, you know there's some shout-outs and some people we have to give the love and the appreciation to before we start rolling here officially on the MCF side.
A new week, will we have some new names? Actually, the answer is no and no.
Gotta give it up. Faces around here, like the sponsor of the months.
Yes, I'm going to fix that right now, actually.
Guys. 2 months in a row, 8 weeks in a row, Mark Hosepian has been representing as not just the sponsor of the weeks, but the stream boss as well. So huge shout out to Mark. Appreciate you. He's going after that record that he actually
put up there.
We'll have to see if he maybe breaks his own streak. So with that, of course, speaking of streaks and victories and things like that, another familiar face in the Cash app, guys.
I'm going to replace you for a second, baby. You know him.
Jason Renfro. Shout out to you, Jason. Of course, much love.
This guy here, 54 on the screen. Much love to Jason Renfro. Back to back as the king of the Cash app. Just like our 90s Cowboys. Will it be the 2020s Cowboys? I don't know. But right now, it don't look like it. We'll see what happens if this team builds forward. Jason Renfro, much love, as he's the king of that Cash app. But, baby, there's other people to discuss here now since we have a new week. Mark does have 89 points on that stream boss, which he's been repping for like 7+ weeks. But it's been chopped down to 89 for a reason. A pre-stream drop right over there in that corner. Skeptical fan with a Go Cowboys and a $10 holler kicking it off here.
Thank you so much, Skeptical. By the way, speaking of, I don't know if you noticed, repping a little Skeptical fan love here today.
Hell yeah. Much love the Skeptical fan. And I'll be wearing my version of his shirt that he sent to us here, another day here coming up on another one of our cam nights here on MCF. So much love the Skeptical fan. He also dropped a $5.50 holler even before that in the PayPal side. Yeah, pre-stream. Maybe yesterday on our night off, right? So again, he's got 15 plus on that overall board, putting him in first place. But right behind him, not far behind at all, is the current leader of the Cash app. Just over my head. Snug X in the house, because he dropped, I was on another stream yesterday, he dropped a $10 holler for, so I got him on the board here, and he's in second place on the board, overall board behind Skeptical Fan. Yeah, but he is first place in the Cash app. The Jason Renfro right now, wanting to try to get that. I know he's trying to get that 3-week streak. He has that 20-week streak in a row. Snug X, though, trying to take it down away from him. We'll see what happens as we continue this week, and just kicking it off. Basically, I know second day of the week, but first day of our week here in MCF. So again, appreciate Snug X, appreciate Skeptical Fan as always, brother. Appreciate you. Got the shirt on display here. And then we're going to talk about the news, info, and updates of the day. Not much from the Cowboys side, but definitely some important stuff to discuss around the league.
Yeah, it feels like more Cowboy-adjacent stuff today, but all of it is, of course, very relevant.
Connected to the Cowboys, but also, of course, we always talk about our own Cowboys and that defensive front seven. I got a little bit of statistical information I think you guys would like to see. On top of that, I also want to kind of bring up the draft information. It's a bigger draft talk tonight. We're like 16, 15 days away from this draft, guys. You ready?
Basically, to me, it's like T-minus 2 weeks. That's it.
Yeah.
Like I'm
ready for this thing.
Full draft mode.
I know we're all ready for this thing, so we're going to discuss that thing tonight here in MCF the draft. So, before we get going, we got to, of course, let people know how you can help the channel out. Right? There's different ways. You see the little description right down there below. But let me, give the bigger layout here so everyone knows what we're talking about here. Again, YouTube, we're trying to get back to the memberships.
Still waiting for YouTube
to super
sort itself out there.
Yeah, we're trying to get all that together, guys. And again, we're just waiting on them, so we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, there's 4 of the ways. Dak Prescott, 4 ways of helping out the channel, supporting the channel. Any of these ways, Cash App, $,
My Cowboys Family.
Right.
We actually just opened up a Venmo. So per family request there.
Yeah, you guys in the house want it.
My-Cowboys-Family. My-Cowboys-Family.
At My-Cowboys-Family.
It's on the screen.
You got
PayPal link, of course. the usual My Cowboys Family Gmail. But guys, if you do want your message to show up right here on screen and taking down Mark Hosepian's stream boss, of course, through that Streamlabs link. right there.
You know it, guys. Appreciate everybody in the house here with us, dropping the knowledge in the chat, dropping the love from above, and the whole MCF experience, which is kind of in the off season right now, right? And it kind of a changing of the way we do things here. But either way, it's always the same when it comes to that chat, the family. That's what this is all about since day one. And by the way, I do want to make sure people, if you're out there right now, you know, I know it's a little more limited stuff on the off season, but check out our our playlist.
Yes.
Of the MCF of 2017 and the MCF of 2022 this past season. And of course, you see some of the newer videos as well. But just have it rolling. Watch it, guys. It is worth it. And you can see the changes from this family 5+ almost 6 years ago to now. So check that playlist out. Trust me, you'll help out the channel by doing that as well. And I appreciate everybody who's been doing that and watching it on the regular. And just it's going to take you probably a month to watch all of those videos. So just, get them knocked out whenever you can. And watch them to the end. It helps it out big time for the channel. So appreciate you guys that are doing that, enjoying that, commenting on that as we see here. So thank you guys on that side of things. But now, to the chat, baby. Who's in the house here?
Yes,
rocking the spot,
shout-outs.
dropping the knowledge all night long.
Oh, we have Bruce. Got the toxic juice. Much love. Appreciate you. And yeah, I have to admit, I'm also one of those people that tends to get into draft mode. Like, it feels like a little bit later, just because it feels like all the other kind of football moves and things like that are still kind of happening. So it's starting to feel like now is when I feel like, all right, I'm starting to get excited for the draft now, like really, really excited.
Yeah.
So
we're not real college people, so that's the thing. College names and stuff. So, it kind of we've already talked out the guys that we know, but we know there's a lot of other stuff coming around the corner, a lot of other options for the Cowboys.
So, Nate Rosario, much love. Yeah, we're not actors. We just play them on TV. Just kidding. Snug X, much love to you.
Snug in the house.
Rolando Rodriguez, all the way from South Texas. Lost in Translation in the house. Scorpio, what's up? Much love. Daniel Berry, hello and hi.
DB.
Mike Aldana saying, rumor, are the Cowboys kicking the tires on Derrick Henry? So
yeah, I'll answer that quick. No. The Cowboys are not looking at Derrick Henry in no way, shape, or form. That's multiple sources. You can say Brian Brodus. You can say any media person, anybody connected with the Cowboys, any sources. Every source say that no one's interested.
Does not seem like there's any interest
in Derrick Henry. So no Derrick Henry not coming. And in fact, you see me repping 21 here, Ezekiel Elliott. But I'm repping this because of another new player we have on this team who's wearing number 21.
Yeah.
Stephon Gilmore. So he'll be repping the 2-1. We'll talk about him tonight a little bit as well with this defense. You'll see what I got for you guys.
Of course, skeptical fan always. Staying skeptical.
The shirt. Yes. We're never skeptical of that. It's fantastic.
Never anything to be skeptical
Nothing
about.
Skeptical about that shirt.
Tyler in the house. Eric Wallace, what's up? Of course. The man, Jason Renfro, much love to you.
The king of the Cash App.
Let me see. I think, is that everyone here so far? Yes, it is. Let me come back down just in case. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Yeah, so that is everybody here. So, baby, give me like 2 seconds to go get this dog settled down. But why don't you go ahead and kind of kick us off with some, like I said, some of the NFL news and things that we have to touch on
I'll touch on this while you take care of old Asha over there. Asha, I mean, she's not used to us going this early. I know, so we usually go like 12:45 or 1 o'clock East Coast. So we're trying to get earlier. So today was supposed to be like 11:45, 12:15, and, it was like 12:20, all right? 12:25. Thank you for sticking in there with us, guys. So, Sunday Ticket. NFL Sunday Ticket, we know that was leaving DirecTV. And the reason I'm bringing it up because we use that here to watch our we're not in Dallas, so we got to, get our games however we can, and that is through, DirecTV services or Sunday Ticket, no more, as far as DirecTV. Now we know it's going through YouTube TV, and YouTube has announced its pricing for NFL Sunday Ticket this upcoming year for people that are YouTube TV subscribers already. $349 for the entire season, and it's $249, basically, if you purchase it early bird special before June 6th. That's a great deal there. And again, if it's $389 with a YouTube subscription, I'm sorry. Let me see here. No, I'm sorry. The first one there was $250 is basically just for the season. If you want the red zone, it costs you $289, $290. Basically, it's $40 more if you want that red zone. In the early bird, in the early bird package, it's about $350 to $390. It's about $100 more if you don't go early bird. So it's $100 savings if you go early. You want it. Now for us, we're not YouTube TV subscribers, so we'd have to look at the next level, which is non-YouTube TV subscribers, and that's $449 for the season, $349 for the early bird special. But again, that's just for the season. If you want red zone, which I know we enjoy the red zone here.
Yeah.
It's $40 more instead of $450. It's $490. It's $390 early bird special with the red zone package, and that's probably what we'll end up doing, right? I think.
Yeah, and of course,
we'll do the
no
early
one
bird
really
special.
knows any of the questions that probably most of us had, because I don't know about you, but most of us are using family Netflix accounts, family Hulu accounts, right? Like we're all sharing with the family, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have any details as far as if we get it, can your uncle over in Missouri use it? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we will definitely, when we hear about that, because we want to know that too. We'll let you guys know the same thing.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep everybody in the loop as far as that, just because obviously I think that's something that pretty much everybody's interested in, because we all want to watch our Cowboys if we're not in Dallas, unfortunately. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. Again, if we can split it between family members, it'd be fantastic on our side, and I'm sure on a lot of people's side over there, out there in the world of NFL, of getting these games on the for the year, right, out of network. Because you're in Dallas, you get every Cowboy game, but outside of that, it's not always you're getting them. Now we get a lot of national TV games in one way or another, so we're lucky, obviously, that we're Cowboy fans in that regard, because especially with Jerry's machinations, right, we tend to get lucky.
You figure we probably get about. Last year I think we had 11 or 12 games that were nationally televised, 5 games that were not nationally televised in some shape or form. At least in our local area, we got them. So I'm hoping we get a lot of that this year.
It might have even been more than that. Yeah. I think we only had 3 games this past season that we couldn't see live, because remember, Monday night and Thursday night and everything else, so I think it ended up working out that.
But we got so many of those games that are on national TV that are not blacked out on our side, so we got all these games that were kind of like the Detroit game or the Bears game. You're never going to get. We got those games as well. So for the most part, we've seen every Cowboy game almost on our local network here. But just in case you don't, that's a backup plan that we may have to fall back to here, fall back on if needed. So anyways, any other quick comments about this? Because I'm going to move on.
No, let's keep it rolling here.
All right.
Sorry, no, we had a little troll in the chat there that made me laugh for a second. So, and I appreciate that, Drums and Cowboys. Much love. Thanks for hanging here.
Okay. Much love, but I don't know what you said. So
No, he said that he likes the organic, regular life aesthetic of the show. It reminds him of the original Wayne's World.
See, I'm telling you, that's all we try to do is keep. Look, I said this in the beginning of the stream. We're not trying to be in the media. We're not trying to be something we're not. We love our Cowboys. There's some, we do this because of the passion for the love of the Cowboys. Of course, when it comes to the YouTube situation, we put up such hard effort, a lot of effort, hard work to build up this channel, and then they just rip it away from us. It's almost the principle more than it is about anything else. But the memberships and the super chats have made it so easy to make it interactive and a fantastic nightly stream. They kind of killed that for now. We ain't dead. We're quivering a little bit, but we ain't dead. We're going to build it hopefully back up to where we had it before, which is similar to this, almost exactly to this. And we'll definitely adjust, but again, we got to take these little steps back.
That does definitely mean, for everybody else at least, you do get more of our beautiful faces.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely. Hey, we might be coming up with something a little different, so keep rolling with us here. It might be some nights like this. Some nights we might have, I don't know, someone else talking for us. Let's put it that way. But we'll still be here, live weird, on the screen,
using a puppet or something.
It's kind of like that, I guess you can say.
Chucky.
I know, but similar to a puppet, I guess you can say, virtual puppet. Anyways, college-wise,
NCF is a simulation.
Yeah, it's just a big. We're just in the Matrix here, guys. Just keeping with the NFL news again. YouTube is one thing, and the YouTube TV stuff. But when you look at former Cardinal head coach Cliff Kingsbury, right? He was in Thailand with his wife, on a month vacation. He didn't give a crap about anything going on here. It came to NFL spots or positions. He came back to the States, kind of after looking at all his options, is joining Lincoln Riley at USC, University of Southern California, to work as the quarterback coach, to work with quarterbacks. I don't know if it's a special spot for him, but he's basically going to be there to work with quarterbacks. So again, it's going to happen. It's expected to happen, guys. Former NFL head coach of the Cardinals, Cliff Kingsbury, is going to work as basically is working with the quarterbacks is the definition. That's quarterbacks coach at University of Southern California, University of USC, basically, guys. So that's where he's headed to, in case you were wondering. But again, Lincoln Riley, kind of connected to the Cowboys a little bit. Kingsbury and his style, kind of like the new age, college age of things. They're kind of combining forces there at USC. And just think about, again, these are some of these guys we're talked about as being a possible coach of the Cowboys when McCarthy eventually took over that spot. So just saying, just throwing it out there. You never know when you can revisit this situation. Jerry Jones would love to get a college coach, but it looks like these guys, or Lincoln Riley's a staple there right now, and then you got Cliff Kingsbury added to the mix. He's probably going to reboot himself either through college or then, get back into the NFL ranks after establishing him a little bit more.
Exactly.
Establishing himself a little bit more in college. Yeah, we'll see. He ain't going to be a Cowboy at least anytime soon. So, again, a lot of people wanted his style.
I also want to put out
Lincoln Riley.
Another kind of failed college to NFL transition, right? Like, it's a tough move to make. And you tend to see it work backwards, usually, right? Like, you kind of go from the NFL to college, not from college to the NFL.
And coaching.
So
you do see that, but again, you see
it's just not as successfully as all I'm saying.
It is harder, depends on what you're doing, but to me, it's more about the fact that he was college and then went to the NFL, and then now he's regressed back to college. In a way, we can say regressed, or, kind of restacking his chips and then going to go. We'll see if he makes another move back to the NFL.
Yeah, it could be a regrouping, but no matter what, it's definitely a step backwards. He can't, there's no way to get around.
But I think he's getting paid, tons loads of money, and he's cool with, kind of just reestablishing himself, I think, in his own terms, in a way. So it is what it is.
Still surprised that Kellen Moore is not being discussed in this similar manner, but, I guess that's maybe a discussion for another year.
Kellen Moore got that job with the Chargers. He'd rather take that than that Boise State job that he had almost sealed up last year before Jerry Jones gave him enough money to bring him back to Dallas. And, now instead of being a head coach in Boise State, he's the offensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Chargers. Probably the better move for him, staying in the NFL. So, anyways, other moves, NFL, real quick. The Falcons. Today they acquired a player that I think a lot of Cowboy fans wanted to bring in here. Again, now he's a former Lion, but Lions cornerback Jeff Okudah. All right, his agent Kevin Connor confirmed this, and just so you guys understand, Jeff Okudah is a high fifth. He was I think he was a top pick. I know he was a top 10 pick. I think for Detroit, a guy we had discussed about. Hey, maybe we should bring him in. Maybe we can trade for him. Well, the Falcons traded for him, but what did they give up? What did they get? What did they have to give up for him? They gave up what we gave up for Stephon Gilmore, 5th round draft pick, guys, 2023 5th round pick. From the Falcons to the Lions. So you got to remember, though, it's probably going to be an early round pick. Yeah. Because the Falcons are picking early.
Yeah,
so
they're obviously a little higher on that list,
so they're going to get an early 5th round pick there to the Lions for Jeff Okudah. Again, you got to remember, guys, he was an early draft pick. He's still, I think, on his rookie contract. So he's got that 5th-year option. He's going to be, relatively cheap. He's had some injury issues in the past.
That's actually not bad.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Falcons get a good deal for a guy who's, to me, is a top talent still. It's just got to stay not injured.
Yeah.
He's got to stay healthy. So, again.
No wonder his name sounds so familiar. Thomas Garrett said Jeff Okudah is a Dallas kid.
Yeah, he's from the Dallas area. He's a Dallas local. But the Cowboys are also interested in him in the draft. They're interested in maybe making a move last year to the defense, right? And maybe, adding him as a corner here.
Big boss man, much love. Yep, the 3rd pick in CD's draft class. So.
There you go. So, again, a guy who I think the Falcons got a great deal, but again, it's the injury issue. There's got to be a reason in there. Something that the Lions did not like.
But, and not just
a rookie contract like that? A rookie contract, though. Think about it. A rookie contract, still a 5th-year option there. I know it's next year, that 5th-year option, like the CeeDee Lamb situation, but if they didn't pull out the 5th-year option, Okudah was going to be playing his last year probably. And
look, I think it's a great deal for the Falcons, but
it's a win-win for both sides. Really,
as much of a win as it can be to have to move on from your 1st-round pick
that's
for the Lions.
But the Lions,
right?
that's the thing. That tells me the Lions are going to move on from him next year. Anyways, now they get a 5th rounder instead of nothing,
which, again,
or a comp pick.
Like I said, that's always great. It's more about it's the same thing like with us with Taco. It's like no one wants to end up in a situation where this is the discussion we're having, as opposed to look at this 1st-round pick that's doing so great. So.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I agree. Again, we have to, we actually hit pretty well, other than Taco and a couple others in the 1st round. We'll discuss that here. Oh, and before even
Snug X representing, kicking things off officially on the live side of things. Yes, with the $5 holler saying "Viva la MCF."
Much love to Snug.
Thank you, Snug. Appreciate you.
In the house with that 5 on it. And he's now just 50 cents back on 1st place on the overall board. He is the leader in the Cash App. Much love to the Snug man bringing it. We know why he's dropping it, but again, appreciate him. Again, we've had some poker live streams, late night, poker playing online with other people in the cowboy community, you can say. So, been fun, been great times with the late night streams. So appreciate the love from Snug X dropping the 5 on it here. And by the way, Mark Hovsepian did at 84 points. I know 84 is this guy. I think of Jay Novacek when I think of 84. But anyway, that's just me. Much love to Mark Hovsepian. Still holding on to that board pretty solidly for the last 7 weeks. And again, Snug X, Skeptical, dropping 11 here, kicking off a new week here in the last, you can say last day and a half or so, but tonight, appreciate you guys, both of you guys dropping in here and repping with us here, supporting the channel. Can't do this without you guys.
Yes, thank you.
So, again, at the end of this, guys, when you look at Okudah, I think, is he Ohio State, by the way? I think he's Ohio State, but Jeff Okudah going to the Falcons. Detroit's Brad Holmes and Atlanta's Terry Fontenot, both of them made it a very easy, collaborative kind of process. They wanted him out, and the Falcons really would like to take a chance with him. So that's the reason why the negotiations were amicable. And it was, according to both sides, they considered it a win-win, considering that he was going to probably not be there next year. So
that is good. That's
it. That's the way it looks like for Detroit and for Atlanta. Now, that's Dallas relative because he's a area kid. He's also a guy that the Cowboys liked a lot.
Yeah.
But
yeah, he was a Buckeye, actually.
Oh, okay. So Ohio State, Ohio State Buckeye, there you go. So, but here's the thing. Moving on from Okudah, we got to go to Devin White, who you guys know I love Devin White as a linebacker. He's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's entering his 5th year or is on his 5th year deal. But guys, today it was official through ESPN and many other sources. Pro Bowl linebacker Devin White has requested a trade. He wants out of there as he's about to play in that 5th year or going to possibly get on his 5th year deal. The Bucs do not want to trade him. They don't want to let him go, but he wants to move on. He is coming up right now in his 5th year option, so that's why he wants to get with a team that's going to be in for him in like a longer run kind of situation.
Yeah, especially considering that without Tom Brady, I'm assuming the situation in Tampa Bay has maybe changed a little bit, so he's trying to strike while the iron's hot and before he ends up getting locked down.
He had again, I'm going to compare it to Devin White's usual. Last year, out of the last 4 years of his career, right? Last year was his worst. So a lot of people are saying, well, maybe he doesn't have it. Come on. He does have it. He's a fantastic player. And I also think that, unfortunately, the Eagles, who have Nakobe Dean right now as their best linebacker I think they have left, they're looking deep into acquiring possibly a Devin White, the Eagles, which would help their defense, obviously. So the Bucs will want to trade him. And when you look at Devin White, when you look at him, guys, for the last 3 years, last year his worst year. But you look at his averages over the last 3 years, he has 130 tackles per season. He's a inside middle linebacking tackling machine. Think about Damone Clark and LVE. Think about those guys. More something like interior and a sideline to side. He's better than all those guys I just mentioned as far as LVE and the ability to stay healthy and the speed, but also the experience that he brings. Let's say over someone like Damone Clark.
What about coverage?
Again, he's fantastic in coverage too. The 130 tackles per year. He's averaging 10 tackles for loss. Unbelievable against the run stop. I mean, this guy's a run-stopping machine.
Pretty solid.
He also has 6 sacks. And he's not really, you don't think of him as a blitzing machine, but he's a front 7 attacker, stopping the run and then going to the quarterback if needed.
Any linebackers with sacks automatically kind of perks up.
But here's the thing. He's also got 4 passes defense. I mean, he's in coverage. He's damn good. So he can cover. He can do it all from the linebacker spot there. He also has a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. Again, it's over the last 3 years. Averaged. This is average per every 3 years. The last 3 years of his career. So to me, Devin White again. I want to say last year was his worst year, but I think Devin White last year had a disappointing year numbers wise. I don't know. In my mind, he would be a steal if you get him for a cheaper kind of deal on a rookie contract. I hope the Eagles don't get him. A lot of people asked me. A lot of people have asked us, what do you think the Cowboys can go out? Listen, I don't think the Cowboys are going to touch him. I don't think the Cowboys are going to go near him. The Cowboys already made their decision when they got LVE. It's a similar situation.
The decision was already made at that point, so... Yeah, I kind of said this before.
We talked about Bobby Wagner, how much everyone went, and you say the Cowboys didn't even go for $7 million for him. Are they going to really go? Yeah, this. Are they really going to go with a Devin White, and what are they going to pay him? $11, $12, $15 million a year? I mean, it's not in the Cowboys' MO on this one for the Cowboys to go after Devin White, in my opinion, just being real. And then when you look, I'll talk about first and foremost. Think of this. And I don't know if anybody thinks we're going to get Devin White or not in the chat. I mean, if you want to make a quick hit, I'm going to kind of slide this to the Cowboys and dive deep into this.
See, now Tyler said let's just give the Bucs a third rounder and call it a day.
Yeah, but you and I, speaking this way, maybe so. You got to remember, he also has to get paid. He wants to get paid. Wherever he goes, you make a trade for him, you're going to pay him the long-term deal. the Cowboys going to do that? You know, the answer is straight up no. And there's reasons for this. We got two guys, LVE, Damone Clark.
Yeah.
The Cowboys paid LVE, and Damone Clark, the guy they drafted, expect him to start.
He's up and coming, so
the Cowboys will roll with these two guys. And you got to also remember, you got J-Ron Curse, who's a third linebacker for the Cowboys. And don't forget Micah Parsons. By the way, I do want to say one thing, even though we know he plays edge much more. Listen to how many yards Micah Parsons, when he's in the game, every time Micah Parsons gets home to the quarterback, sacks the quarterback, how many yards does the quarterback or the offense lose, yardage-wise, on his sacks? So here it is. In 33 games for Micah Parsons, he has 26.5 sacks. Last year, the opposing offense, he caused 89 negative total yards, 89 total yards lost last year, on his sacks. In 2021, his rookie year, 119 yards lost by opposing offenses combined for the year. Again, guys, when you look at that loss total per sack and you add it up, that's a huge amount of yards that he is responsible for. He is responsible for negative 208 total yards lost per sack. I'm saying that's a whole stat, but it's not just for a whole 2 years, guys. He's already caused 208. That's 2 football fields of lost yardage on his sacks. Since entering the NFL, the guys, obviously, we all know he's dominant. But I'm just adding to the front seven kind of mindset that he's an attacker, linebacker, but you see him attacking from the edge. He can attack, of course, stopping the run, like a missile, almost disrupting the defense. But when it comes to attacking the quarterback at the edge, he's dominant, guys. And again, when you look at the average yards lost per sack over his career, 6.3 yards. 6.3 yards lost per sack every time in his career. Whenever Micah sacks a quarterback, they're losing almost 6.5 yards every time, and that's behind the line of scrimmage. So I'm just saying, now you think about it, 2nd and 16. You look at that 2nd or 3rd and who knows, right? 3rd and 13 or 3rd and 10, whatever it may have been before that. So when you look at that attack ability by Micah, and then that's why I'm kind of bringing this to Devin White at linebacker, right? Which is Micah Parsons' contract.
Mike Aldana is saying, White does want a new contract. So
that's what I'm trying to say. The Cowboys will not give him the. That's what I was saying. That they're not going to trade for him and then have to pay for him. So the Cowboys won't do this one. Even
that's not the type of linebacker that we're looking for currently to add to the team.
But the one thing he has, and that's why I kind of, Micah has unbelievable speed. He's a linebacker. But what about the rest of our team, baby? Listen to this. Dante Fowler said, quote, I've played, the Cowboys defense had the fastest front seven I've ever played for in my NFL career by far. Per Dante Fowler, who, again, we just recently re-signed.
Was part of the team and then moved on from the team and now is back with the team.
What? Moved on?
Wasn't Fowler? Oh, no, we re-signed him.
Yeah, well, he was a free agent, but we brought him back. Yeah, he never left the team. He was a free agent for a little bit, but he never actually. I thought you meant, but he left the team like as a free agent.
Yeah, no.
And then, he never signed anybody. But he re-signed us. He's back for his 2nd year. But again, fastest defense he's ever seen in his career by far, he said. And here's the thing, guys. Let's look at the front seven kind of guys here. And again, let me reiterate. Front seven is what? The front seven. You know what they are?
Our 4,
the 4 defensive linemen,
our edge rushers, our inside guys.
That's the 4 inside, and then 3 in the box are the linebackers, which you can also...
which again, the reason we say linebackers is because, like you said, if we're using a guy like Curse in there, right? Like he kind of fulfills more than one role necessarily.
But see, those guys are safeties or corners. They're usually just naturally going to be faster than a linebacker or edge. So I'm taking them out, even though they are in the mix sometimes.
All right.
But I'm taking those guys. I'm
so just like
only
pure
linebacker, edge, or defensive tackles.
Okay.
On our team. Here's the 40s for these 9 players. With the average of these 9 players, it's a 4.62 in the 40. So think about this. A little over 4.5 seconds for every one of our front 7 guys when you look at the averages here. Micah Parsons, 4.39 in the 40. That's a big guy.
That is...
LVE, second, 4.6. I'm sorry, not second. But at linebacker, that's why I'm going at linebackers. Devin White's fast, but LVE, 4.65, ain't that slow. He's pretty fast. Damone Clark, 4.56. I mean, again, Micah, LVE, Damone Clark, there's no lack of speed with any of those 3 guys. Throw in there Jabril Cox, 4.52. 4 linebackers.
And none of these guys are exactly skinny minis. Like, they're all relatively solid,
I'd say Jabril Cox,
bulky
smallest guy there, right? He's probably the smallest guy in that group. Cox is more of a coverage. I'd say he's more like a J-Ron Curse kind of styled guy.
Yeah, he's almost like a corner and a linebacker mushed together.
Safety, I think.
Like
more
physically.
of a safety.
I don't know. For me, he has more. Look,
safety definitely. Yeah, remember he covers. He covers tight ends.
I meant more his physical build. Like I said.
I know what you mean. To me, he's like
the difference between a corner and safety is negligible. So don't worry.
I'm just saying, baby, it depends what you're talking about. Because for safeties, we like the bigger safeties. We like the bigger corners, but bigger corners are not the same as big safeties. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, we have to distinguish the differences there.
Okay, but they're all string beans compared to linebackers.
To linebackers, yeah, but that's where it gets blurred, though, right? Because J-Ron Curse,
I said Jabril Cox is a little bit more.
J-Ron Curse, Donovan Wilson, those are bigger safeties. Although I will say, J-Ron Curse, I think he may be a little bigger than Jabril Cox in certain ways, like height-wise and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, like, when you look at a Donovan Wilson, who's a lot smaller as a safety, I think that's a guy, who's still playing linebacker. And again, I'm not including these guys at the linebacker spot. I just want to clarify that, because again, Jabril Cox, we haven't seen much of him, so we don't know what he can really do yet. But he's got the speed. So does Damone Clark, LV, and Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons is an edge rusher, so let's go to the edge rushers and see their speed here. 4.39 for Micah. Sam Williams, 4.46. I mean, these are edge rushers. They're faster than our linebackers, and these are supposed to be bigger guys than the linebackers. Then you got Dante Fowler, 4.61, his speed. Very fast, Dante Fowler. As an edge rusher, DeMarcus Lawrence. Don't sleep on DeMarcus Lawrence. He's 4.8 right now. I mean, again, that was in his rookie year, but 4.8 in the 40. Just saying, like, of course he's like 6'5", and he's 280 pounds. So of course 4.80 is fantastic for an edge freaking guy. Again, remember, he does play defensive tackle in pass rushing sets, in pass rushing situations. You see DeMarcus Lawrence playing the interior the 3-tech kind of spot. So as a 3-tech in pass rushing down, it's a 4.8. That's fantastic. Now, two other guys I want to mention. Edge rusher, another edge rusher here, Dorrance Armstrong. He is fat, 4.87. And he's, again, big like DeMarcus Lawrence. You got two big guys stopping the run on the outside. And you can move them both inside, which we have done, and use them as defensive 1 and 3 techs in pass rushing downs.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of my favorite things that Quinn does, just because, again, you keep the offense on their toes.
And don't forget, again, I've named linebackers, all different kinds of linebackers, the ones that cover, ones that edge rush. I've named edge rushers on here. I've named run stopping linebackers, edge rushers. But I haven't made a defensive tackle yet. Well, how about Osa Odigizua? Osa runs the 40 in a 4.74. And just to remind everybody, all these 9 players I just mentioned, 4.62 is the average 40 on these are front 7 guys. These are linebackers, and these are edge rushers and defensive tackles.
Yeah, so when we're talking
the big
about
guys, the biggest defensive guys,
the types of defensive players that Quinn likes, I mean, speed has to be probably one of the number one, like, across the board parameters, at least on defense, right?
Agreed.
Like, I don't know what numbers we were using before or what guide we were telling Will McClay to draft by, but the last 2-3 years, you can definitely see an increase in our speed overall. And
then you look at J-Ron Curse, right? Again, I didn't want to add him into that list, but the thing is this about see what he can do when you compare him to some of the guys on our own team. Listen to this. Defensive line. He played 113 snaps. This is J-Ron Curse, the safety. Now, again, he's a strong safety by definition. He can play free safety. He can play slot corner. He can play linebacker like we talked about. And he plays on the defensive line sometimes. So let's compare him to some of our own guys and see what J-Ron Curse did last year compared to some guys last year.
All right.
Defensive line, he had 113 snaps for J-Ron Curse. Very effective, by the way. Him and Donovan Wilson, very effective on the defensive line of scrimmage as safeties. But how about Sam Williams, who's an up-and-comer? He had a good year of production last year, a minimal snap count. He had only 166 snaps at the defensive line.
Okay.
166 snaps for Sam Williams at the edge. And J-Ron Curse, he had 113 as a safety. Yeah, that's a big... So you're seeing the comparison there. Use a lot of J-Ron Curse, not just all the way back there, but right up front.
Yeah.
Now, run defensive snaps. When you look at the run defense... And the team that comes out with the run defense, LVE, I'd say he's like, the middle linebacker. We just talked about Devin White. Well, LVE, for run defensive snaps in this season, 338 is how many J-Ron Curse had. LVE, 337. J-Ron Curse was in there one more run defensive snap than LVE. And LVE is our run stopper. Just say this is the thing I'm trying to say, guys. Defensive line, edge rusher type guy, J-Ron Curse played almost as much as Sam Williams. You know, you want to get the run stopping guy in there who's a safety at linebacker. J-Ron Curse had one more run defensive snap than LVE. So you see the jack of all trades here when it comes to J-Ron Curse. And what about in coverage? Who would you say is the guy at the safety position that has to cover the most? It's the free safety. And there are three guys: Donovan Wilson, J-Ron Curse, Malik Hooker. Who was our free safety? It was Malik Hooker. Malik Hooker was the guy getting most of those snaps as the free safety in coverage. That's a coverage spot there. 432 coverage snaps for J-Ron Curse. Malik Hooker had 507 coverage snaps. Yeah, he had 70 more, Malik Hooker, than J-Ron Curse. But J-Ron Curse doesn't really play free safety too often in coverage back there. So just saying, guys, when you look at his coverage snaps all around the field for J-Ron Curse, he can cover. He almost as many coverage snaps as Malik Hooker, the free safety. He can play run defense. He has one more run defensive snap than LVE. And edge rushing, even I know rookie lack of amount of time to snap count for him when it comes to Sam Williams, but we know he's a guy had production out there. J-Ron Curse was a little safety, but on the defensive line, getting as many edge snaps a little less edge snaps than Sam Williams, an edge rusher. So, again, just the importance on our front seven, and you throw in there Donovan Wilson, and you're hearing these numbers. You throw in there J-Ron Curse. You're adding – now you got really a front nine now. And, again, we talked about 9 guys affecting with speed. You add in there 2 other safeties on your front seven kind of mindset. Now you got 11 guys that have speed, can be utilized, to stop the run, to affect the pass rush. All these things. You're seeing the versatility of our safeties in the Dan Quinn defense, along with the front seven that have the speed and the ability to get to the quarterback and hopefully stop the run. That's the one thing we're missing. That's the only thing Devin White gives you that the other guys can't give you as well, is stopping the run. But you help stop the run for a guy like LV, and the same thing would be for Devin White. You got to have that one tech. He's got to be able to take on his blockers and not let them shake him.
Which, at least for the Cowboys right now, is
Jonathan Hankins.
That's where we invested.
And that's the key. Jonathan Hankins makes a difference in this defense to help out LV in the run game. We do that. The speed, the attacking rush, all that stuff will be there for us to take, and we'll be able to attack in every single way, I believe. So.
Mike Aldana throwing out there, Jimmy Johnson knew the importance of defensive tackles. Russell Maryland, Chad Henning, Tony Casillas, etc. Randy Stites, much so too. He said Jimmy Johnson won a national championship and 3 Super Bowls with speed.
Exactly. It was all about speed back then. It's speed back again here on defense.
Exactly. Obviously, slightly different scheme, but, some things, you're right, don't ever change. And speed is absolutely one of the factors that has helped our defense go from just okay to occasionally above average to we're good. Yeah,
I mean, I'm gonna explain one more guy in the back end here on defense that I think is gonna, again, when you think about this is all front seven pressure. I'm sorry, but I think about this front seven pressure we have with the speed and the ability of these guys to get home, and then you think about what about back there? Like, we got Trayvon Diggs and we got Stephon Gilmore back there with Bland, Jordan Lewis in the slot, and you got the safeties we discussed already.
Yeah. Cue ball, much love. Thomas Garrett. I completely forgot about that. Obviously, I knew Jimmy Johnson played football, but I forgot that he was a defensive tackle.
Yeah, Jerry Johnson was, and again, Alabama, right?
Jerry Johnson.
Huh?
You said Jerry Johnson.
No, I said Jerry Jones, I thought. No. But they both played.
We're talking about Jimmy Johnson.
Okay, I know. They both played on the same team.
I know they both played football. That's not it. It's just that I'm laughing at you because you said Jerry Johnson.
Jerry Johnson.
That's it. Anyway, the point is, forgot that Jimmy was a defensive tackle in the sense of naturally most coaches, if that's the position that they played, they tend to value that position maybe a little bit more.
What was Jerry?
The same way that Kellen Moore has that quarterback mindset, right? Just saying that Jimmy obviously had like a defensive tackle type of mindset, and honestly,
I forgot he played
a lot of the big
tackle.
guys that we had on our team at the time too. Like,
when did Jerry Jones play offensive line? I think then I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You guys check on that.
That's why I said like I knew Jimmy played football. Obviously,
Arkansas, not Alabama.
Completely forgot that.
It's Arkansas. That's offensive to some people. I said the wrong school there. It's an A school.
Jerry Johnson sounds like a hell of a football player, right? Like maybe if we take Jimmy and Jerry and they finally make up, and
that sounds to
Jimmy's
me
in
like
the Ring of Honor.
That sounds like a little lawsuit for Jerry Jones. Anyways,
I don't know. Jerry Johnson sounds like a line of men's like high-end suits or something.
Jerry played offensive tackle. Jimmy played defensive tackle. Yes.
Oh, there you go. So nice, Randy. So yeah, Jerry was a guard.
Okay, offensive line, right? So
there you go.
And so you go, opposite sides. They went at each other a lot, I guess, and they still seem to. So as we get,
they were just born to butt heads.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant that literally and figuratively.
Yeah, and to butt heads. Just gonna say one last thing before we kind of get to. I guess I'll stop because we got to talk about new acquisitions in a minute. But let's take a quick commercial break here.
Yes, guys. Again, everybody here chilling, hanging with us. Take a second to hit like, subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Follow us anywhere and everywhere at MyCowboysFamily. Hop the Discord links down below. Actually, if anyone can drop the Discord link in the chat too. And of course, in the meantime, while we deal with the YouTube shenanigans,
and I will politely call them. And I do think we have a couple drops, so I'll be checking on that in a minute. But maybe let's go through it.
There's only a few ways to show the love in the meantime while we wait for the super chat situation to work itself out. Of course, the regular Cash App. We do have a Venmo now. At MyCowboys-Family.
There we go.
I got it right this time. Of course, the usual PayPal link. And if you want your message to show up on screen, just like SnugX's message showed up not that long ago here, you do have that Streamlabs link there, which also brings down Marco Sepian's stream box.
So you're breaking it to him, maybe?
So thank you, Scorpio. Appreciate that, of course.
Yes, the love, of course. I appreciate everybody who's dropped the love there. And now we got to shout out a couple other ballers in the house that dropped some love, baby, and that is someone named SnugX who dropped that 5 on it, and now he's officially in first place now, baby.
Yes, he is, because he didn't just drop a 5 there. He also dropped another 5. $5.
So he's got
he's
got a major lead in the Cash App, and he's got a nice little lead in the overall board.
He said for the Cowboys.
Of course, always for the Cowboys.
Of course, for the Cowboys.
We have our new leader right above our heads right there, and his name is SnugX, but there's still a couple people in the mix, guys. Right now, I think SnugX was the only person on that Cash App side until now. Randy Stites in the house.
Much love, Randy.
He dropped $2 hollers in there, and he said, I want an offensive guard or offensive tackle to help Dak. We're going to talk about a little bit on the offensive lineman side.
He mentioned that he wanted a versatile offensive lineman in the chat, which again just automatically brought me to Steve Avila once again. Yeah. But I don't want to steal those words from you.
Osiris Torrance not as versatile,
but possibly better at some of the more individual positions.
Terrence Bergeron, who's a guy from I keep saying Syracuse, I think, tackle but plays guard better, and he played mainly tackle. So some names out there.
Each guy has its plus and minuses, but if you're looking for versatility all the way around,
Avila
seems to fit the bill.
But I will say there's another name out there we're going to discuss real quick tonight. So I'll keep you on there. Randy Stites, of course.
Beast Mode said you're the only one I hear talking about Bergeron.
Really? Wow. Bergeron's unbelievable because I think I don't know why I'm the only one talking. And I'm not a big college guy. You guys know this. I'm never fronting like that. But I'm just saying, like, what I've seen him play on the outside and as a guard, to me, it's even better. So I like him at left guard.
Let me preemptively say this just in case it does happen. If for whatever reason the Cowboys do actually draft him, I want everyone and their mom to say MCF said it first.
And I wish I was the first, but there's always somebody before me. But yes. But as far as on these streets,
I'm fucking with you. I know.
Randy Stites also with the other $2 said MCF, MCW, YouTube, power couple.
Much love. Boom. Appreciate you.
That was.
You gotta let me chat with the chat, baby. You gotta let me chat.
I know, but I'm trying to chat with you too.
I know. No. Chat with yourself. Let me chat with the chat.
So yes, we got SnugX, Randy Stites on there. Now you can hit the chat real quick.
You know why I'm here.
Yes, you're here to give your 2 cents on the Cowboys and to chat with the chat.
Yes, but
keep them.
For me, I will say again, everyone does their own thing or whatever. And maybe part of it is, too, just because you naturally tend to filibuster a little bit more as you're touching on some of these topics. But I genuinely, I don't know, just the chat's my...
Your thing. Your
my
place to
hangout.
hang.
My little chill, cozy place there. So, Beast Mode does say he likes Bergeron, by the way. He's just saying that, you're...
Oh, no, I think he's one of the guys in our chat that spoke about him. And I had spoken about Bergeron already, but he spoke about him a little bit afterwards, and I was like, we see eye to eye with that guy. Don't sleep on him.
By the way, I had to read this comment by Randy. It made me laugh. He said, commercial, I don't need a manscape. I already have one.
I know. We see eye to eye, Randy. We see the same thing. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, I don't think there's much...
We don't. The only advertisement is sponsor of the month.
Oh, I was gonna.
I was gonna say Cash Apps and the people in the chat. No, Manscaping.
That's what I said. I'm not gonna.
That's another channels. That's other channels do that stuff. We don't do that here. We say you guys are the ones that are truly the sponsors on this channel, and that's what it's always gonna be.
There are manscapers.
No. Stop with the manscaping. It's actually. I'm not going to say. I don't want to say it because I'll give away too much.
Bruce got to talk to Juice said, Big Mike played tight end, Dan Quinn played defensive tackle. Look at their influences on the team as well. Again, the Big Mike is probably going to bring, some hopefully West Coast-ish flavors.
But the offensive line has always been
tight end
his
is
knowledge.
Not a big question mark, like a medium-sized question mark right now in Dallas.
Well, we're going to...
Medium-sized question mark.
We'll discuss that. We're going to discuss it. A very interesting thing came out when we talk about the draft stuff. It's what we're going to be next here. After I get to our new acquisitions, you're going to see some interesting discussions, I think, in the chat and with us here about possible draft picks early. Early this draft, day 1, day 2 kind of picks. So let me just keep going here, baby. Stephon Gilmore, yes.
I'll allow it.
Stephon. By the way, Zeke. Not on the team anymore, but Zeke was, spotted and put out the videos that he's running around, and doing his stuff that he does every year, which is cool, whatever. But again, I saw the post from them said still looks like a fourth overall pick to us. So again, whoever he's working out, they're getting him, trying to get him to that look again. It looks like the same Zeke to me that we've seen here. It's the last couple of years. So it is what it is. But we'll see how that story continues for Zeke and where he goes. It'll be after the draft when that story is concluded. But let's go with the guy that's taken over 21. That's Stephon Gilmore. We talked about the defense. Talked about the front seven. We know about Trayvon Diggs. Stephon Gilmore, baby, listen to this. Stephon Gilmore, still one of the best out there. 29 interceptions. That's 6th amongst active players in the NFL right now. It's not like he's fallen off too much either when you look at these. Oh, he has good years already. Devin McCourty, 35 interceptions. Patrick Peterson, 34. Harrison Smith, 34. Sean Gibson, 32. And Marcus Peters, 32. These are the 5 guys that are in front of Stephon Gilmore, active list-wise. He also has 127 passes defended. Just saying, guys, that's 2nd among active players. The point here I'm trying to make is that he's always either at that ball or in the mix. He's in that play. He has his hands in the line of the quarterback or receiver's eyes, and he's able to deflect the ball, knock the ball down. Again, 127 passes deflected. The only guy who has more is Darius Slay. He's number 1 with 133. He's only got 6 more. So just saying, Stephon Gilmore is still up there as one of the top guys in the NFL at cornerback. We may put Trayvon Diggs above him. But Gilmore might be a better kind of I would say, lockdown type of guy. More think of a better Byron Jones than, let's say Trayvon Diggs is more of an attacker of the ball, right? He's he's going to attack the ball. He's going to make the catches and do that kind of stuff. But, and he is involved in the mix, and he's a physical guy. But Stephon Gilmore is just a veteran at doing what he does out there for years. And, again, 2019. Again, it's 3 years ago. I guess 4 coming up now. But Defensive NFL Player of the Year. Imagine a Player of the Year being a cornerback, right? 5-time Pro Bowler. The last time he was there was 2021. 2-time First Team All-Pro. 2019 was when he was. So you can see the 2019, 2020, 2021. Those were his elite years. He's still at the damn good years. He's at the very good years right now. And again, he might have that for another year or 2. So we'll see what happens and how long he stays with us. But he's here for this year. And so is his buddy. He's here for 2 years, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, again, they're both buddies in New England, but of course now they're back together in Dallas. Brandon Cooks, a guy we also acquired in trade. Just think about this, guys. Again, I talked about it the other day about Brandon Cooks' abilities. We talked about the comparison to Odell Beckham. It's not a comparison to me. When you look at the money, you got 16 out the window in 2 years, no matter what, to Brandon Cooks. You got 15 out the window for 1 year for Odell Beckham. On top of that, how does Odell would fit in our offense compared to Brandon Cooks? Brandon Cooks is Odell's the bigger star, but who's the guy who's more consistent and can be trusted even more than Odell Beckham, who hasn't played? It's going to be a year and a half since the last time he played by the time the season starts. Brandon Cooks, guys, 49 touchdowns with over 4 different teams. Now entering his 5th team, the Cowboys. But 49 touchdowns with 4 different teams, 6 different years. Yeah, 4 different teams. Out of those 9 years, 6 of those years, he had 6 seasons of 1,000-yard, receiving yards in his career. 6 out of 9 years, 1,000 yards. And on all those teams, he was the number 1 receiver. He had to drag everybody around. He had to get the best corner every single time. He was matched up against the best corner every time. He played on the outside 75% of the time. Brandon Cooks on the outside. So he's matched up against Stephon Gilmore back in his heyday, right? So imagine Cooks going and still getting 1,000 yards in those seasons against the number 1s. Again, 4 different teams with 4 different quarterbacks, and sometimes with Houston, the worst of the quarterbacks in the same year. And then look at this guy, Brandon Cooks, over his career. Yards per reception, 13.7 over his career. Tyreek Hill, in his great career, 13.9. Only 0.2 more than Brandon Cooks over career. And Odell Beckham, 13.9 as well over his career. So again, yeah, Odell can definitely bring that superstar, kind of feel to it. We got CeeDee Lamb here. I think Brandon Cooks is a better fit, and of course, when you look at the money side of things, a much better fit for the Joneses, right? So, also, one last thing about Brandon Cooks, about the availability, like something that you might not get with Odell Beckham. He played in 14 or more games in every single year in his 9-year career, except for 2 of them, in 2010 and 2013. Outside of that, he's been an Iron Man. So, Brandon Cooks, he will not get off that field. He will stand that. He will vibe as our 3rd or 2nd receiver in matchups that he's gonna take advantage of easily, compared to his previous years as the number 1 guy for all those big years he had. His 6 years, 7 years, always the number 1 receiver, and all 9 years, always the number 1 guy. Not in Dallas, not anymore. So, when I look at receiver, I look at also, again, people forget about Kevontae Turpin, who's a receiver, not just a kickoff specialist or a punt return specialist. Kevontae Turpin yesterday arrived at the Texas Rangers and the Royals game, Kansas City Royals game, and he again was going to throw. He was throwing out the first pitch. He was planning on throwing a curveball out there. He actually threw a strike right down the middle. It wasn't a fast strike or anything, but it was a strike down the middle. And then right afterwards, he did his patent flip. And of course, Kevontae Turpin doing his thing there. And again, we saw. Now we go to the draft side of things. We also saw Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. And you guys have seen the video. I retweeted it on MyCowboysFamily on Twitter.
Yes. You should have followed us there.
You probably follow us over on Twitter. But you'll see the video of Micah Parsons picking up the medicine ball, doing these exercises with Bijan Robinson, guys. Bijan Robinson from Texas Longhorns. And it wasn't just him. It was also Rashawn. Was it Rashawn Johnson? Is that his name?
I think so.
Who's the other? He's the backup to Bijan Robinson. So
Rashawn. Yeah.
Rashawn. Yeah. So Rashawn and Bijan both working out with Micah. So again, does that mean we're getting both these guys? Of course not. A lot of people out there saying, "Oh, we're gonna get both these guys." Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. We're gonna see maybe one of these guys, and the more probable one is Rashawn Johnson, who may be the better pickup, by the way. Who is probably got a little less wear and tear, but also I say better pickup for the draft value. You're gonna get a 1st round running back, or you're gonna get like a 3rd round running back. That will you can get better players above that running back spot there. So.
Either way, in that situation, it feels like less of a reach with at least one of our picks, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Remember, guys, we are picking 26 and then so on and so on for every single round. So we're always going to be, I don't want to say getting the dregs or whatever, but we're not exactly getting our first choice here. Again, it's that double-edged sword of suffering from success. And, I touched on this way before, and I do think it bears repeating now as we get closer to the draft. Remember, I've said that one of the things that kind of hurts our Cowboys as much as it helps us is we don't suck. That's a good thing, right? Having a good team is always good. But the fact that we haven't sucked enough outside of that 2015 season to get a high-value draft pick does mean that pretty much for the last 7 years or so, we're picking 15th at best, and now look at us here at 26. So it does change the dynamics of the draft, and the Cowboys have mentioned this a few times, but you do see that kind of very steep drop-off when it comes to some of the talent available. in those situations. Now, don't get me wrong. That does not mean I want to end up like the Falcons or the Bears or some of these other shitty teams with like first, the second, third, fourth, fifth round picks either.
First overalls, the first picks. You know what I mean? Draft. Yeah, top high picks, top 10 picks every year. But that's Jerry Jones' music to his ears. When you stay competitive, you're not going to get as good draft picks. All he wants to do is stay competitive, and that's what we've done.
And again, that's great, but like I said, it is a double-edged sword when you have a team like the Cowboys who depend so heavily on their draft picks to make up the bulk of like their.
But if that's the case, then we've been handling it. We've been handling it pretty well, though. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, I agree, but it does mean that this year in particular, because like I said, this is the most successful year we've had. As far as like draft picks and stuff like that in a while. We've kind of been hovering in the other zone. Well, so now we're, I think, taking a bigger hit, and the fact that this draft class is weaker, we feel it more this year. That's all I'm saying. Combined with the weak draft class and the later pick.
Yeah, it's almost. Yeah, I hear you. And trading down, is an option. I wish the Cowboys would consider.
If you have a draft class with like an overabundance of players, where it's like, no, this is a stacked class, and it's stacked at positions that we want. This becomes more of a moot point, but every single discussion that we keep having about our 26th pick, at one point or another, we're talking about trading down because it always feels like it's worth it.
I'm hearing that Bijan, and somebody says is a dog breed out there. I think Rainey Stites asked.
Bijan Fouset.
Yeah, but Bijan Robinson, I'm hearing is going to be between 10 and 20 picked in that range somewhere. He ain't even going to get to the Cowboys, so let's stop talking about that. And if he is there, if he's picked, he's picked. I don't know what to say, but we got 16 days now, really, I guess officially 15 days till the draft. And we'll know what the Cowboys do with that 26th pick. We're going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. I guess a couple good comments here. I saw Drums and Cowboys. Tyreek Hill did give props to CeeDee Lamb. I saw that. Orlando in the house.
I'd love to see it, of course.
Said that, let me see, I can't.
He said the Cowboys lost their left guard and their right tackles coming off an injury. Cowboys need to draft an offensive lineman to protect Dak in the first round if he is there.
And I think most of us are in the same boat about offensive linemen. I think a lot of people have come down to this. Look, outside of a flashy pick by Jerry Jones, and I mean by a flashy pick, I mean wide receiver, running back with Bijan Robinson, one of these kind of picks, a tight end, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Those would be, outside of that, offensive line's got to be up there, right? You got to figure also defensive edge. The Cowboys, I know we don't seem like we need it, but the Cowboys love to bring in more edge guys that are fast, and we know that MO. So
I agree, but what we've also discussed, the Cowboys very rarely tend to go defense over offense in that first round. So if the choice is between an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, they're going to go O-line every time. And twice on Sundays, probably. And
again, I do not disagree with that. I also think that...
though, of course.
I just think that the Cowboys, Jerry Jones can throw... Again,
I know he could throw a curveball.
He's going to go in there and maybe try to get the running back or get a receiver. That's going to just like... Everyone's going to change their view, or see how the Cowboys are kind of... I guess I'm trying to say is that with the restructure the draft based on Jerry Jones's impulse. I mean, and that's only unfortunate, which is very positive.
You kind of touched on it already, though. Outside of like one or two positions, it is basically what is our draft board, right? Like, what are the guys that are supposedly, like, let's assume somebody on our list like fell down to that 26th spot, and the choice is between like an Avila or this guy. We don't know who that guy is, right? Like, I'm not talking to Bijan, I'm talking to whatever. I'm talking that's some kind of internal
that's the wild card in the draft.
Jerry situation,
It's a wild card in the draft, and don't be surprised if you see one of these picks. But again, a lot of people, if it's a guy like Tyler Smith, we're going to say the Cowboys reached, and if there's a guy that falls down to us, will the Cowboys even... It would be like a CeeDee Lamb situation, right? So
real quick, see. Eric Black, much love. Tyler, Brandon James, Mike Aldana, Azteca Aguilar 04. Now, Q-Ball said it's a better deal all the way around. Azteca saying, honestly, we need to go O-line in the first. Defense, maybe running back later, but it does seem like the overall consensus is O-line in the first round is probably your best bet.
So 16 days to the draft, 15 officially, I guess you could say. The Cowboys have picked 26th in the draft 4 times in our history. 4 times. Who were the picks at 26? We took a running back in 1972, Bill Thomas from Boston College. In 1981, we took 26th. We picked Howard Richards, offensive guard from Missouri. In 1990, receiver from Auburn, Alexander Wright. And in 2007, Anthony Spencer, defensive edge rusher from Purdue. So those are the guys we picked at 26. Does that really tell us anything? No. There's so many different 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. I mean, it's so many different changes every year generationally. That there's a whole different world now you're going to pick. But the point is this, guys. There's no sure thing at the 26th pick in any draft. If we hit on anything, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great, thing that if I be like saying we hit on Tyler Smith last year, like that kind of hit.
Yeah, basically, if they succeed in a way that we somewhat expected there, then that is a win. And it's not just a win, it's kind of a big win when you consider all the factors going into it. So
when we look at mock drafts, and we haven't done our mock drafts this year too often because it's a bunch of repeating stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. So,
and not just that, but also, like we said, in particular this year, we're gonna end up picking the same 2-3 positions more or less for those first few rounds, and I feel like that's gonna get kind of boring when we get to the point where
and I've seen the mock drafts out there. It gets a little silly sometimes. Let's be real. But here's the thing, Mel Kiper.
You prefer more realistic ones.
Yeah, again, I don't even know if Mel Kiper is realistic. I don't even know which ones I trust. But my point is, Mel Kiper Jr. is the guy that's known for 30 years, knowing his draft guides and doing his drafts analysis. And he did a mock draft here 2 weeks away from the draft or so for every team in the first 2 rounds of the draft.
Okay.
And he went with, at the first pick, at pick 26, tight end Michael Mayer, who is the number 1 tight end in the entire draft by all reports. Now, I know that's you're
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. I will not say I told you so unless it actually happens. But if it does happen,
you've been saying tight end. That's not a surprise.
I said tight end a week into the offseason, and I remember I got ripped so bad. I said, "Damn, you know what? You guys actually maybe you guys have a point. Maybe I am just being stupid here." Saying tight end or whatever, and every time I kind of mentioned it, every time I get a little less hate, but I still got a lot of pushback. And finally, I just gave up. Well, I just straight up said, I'm like, obviously I'm thinking in a different direction, which is fine.
We talked about Dalton Kincaid a little while back, which is one of the guys that you had, said that, hey, maybe that's a tight end situation. But now I'm hearing that Michael Mayer may be dropping, so he wasn't even supposed to be there. Now he's going to be there at 26. Would that be a consideration? You got to remember, guys, here's what Mel Kiper said on Michael Mayer going to the Cowboys. Quote, Dalton Schultz left in free agency, and the Cowboys never replaced him. Now, I'm going to stop him there and say we got Ferguson and Hendershot, but again, we never really replaced the impact guy that we know for sure is going to be there, right? So, never replaced him. Mel Kiper Jr. said, quote, let's get Dak Prescott a talented safety valve here. Mayer is the best all-around tight end in this class. He's not afraid to latch onto defenders and block. Don't discount his receiving upside either. Now, he has a great receiving upside at Notre Dame. You got to remember, guys, they would have to. There was a certain point in his career there at Notre Dame where the best play for the offense, they had multiple shitty quarterbacks. From what I remember, they would just throw it up to him and he would make the play. He was like their number 1 receiver.
Figure it out.
But he was their receiver. He was their not just a safety valve like he would be in Dallas. He was their number 1 guy. So you want a guy that's going to be impactful day 1 at tight end. It's not a bad move when you look at that. But what about the other players on the board? Defensive lineman from Pitt, Kalijah Cansey. A lot of Cowboy, people are talking about him. What about, again, I'm not a big fan of this receiver, but no offense to QJ in the chat, but Quentin Johnson, wide receiver from TCU, he's a guy that was still on the board here from Mel Kiper's draft. We had Brian Branch from Alabama, defensive back. We had an inside offensive lineman, interior. We know it's the offensive guard Steve Avila was still there, and he did not. Mel Kiper said no on the guard there. He went tight end. The only other guy you can see on this list here is Will McDonald, the 4th. Again, guys, a small school. Again, he's from, where is he? Iowa State. But edge rusher. That's why I said edge rusher. And not only that, and I want you to keep this in mind,
very
baby.
surprising.
Well, I want you to keep this in mind because edge rusher, it's interesting because I'm just going to say that Will McDonald was actually one of the guys Dan Quinn really loved, high on him, and one of the guys he worked out. I'm going to talk about Dan Quinn, kind of like the cues. He's giving us a little insight of maybe what he's looking for, where he's looking, at least the colleges. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But Will McDonald, he worked them out. Don't sleep on that, guys. Again, also a top 30 guy brought in by the Cowboys in Will McDonald. So don't sleep on him. He was still up there at edge. We had Steve Avila, which you guys know is kind of my pick. But again, not the worst deal in the world if we have Michael Mayer. Did you have a problem with that?
I mean, obviously not. Like I said, I am just genuinely surprised because, like I said, I let go of the tight end situation a long time ago because someone like Michael wasn't even supposed to be in nowhere close to 26. So, but things change obviously as we get closer to the draft. Now,
free agency, and we saw we went after and we left open. And a couple of things we left open.
Just at the beginning of the stream, I said tight end was a medium-sized question mark. Yeah, so, there's no denying that whether it's addressed in the draft or shortly after the draft, the Cowboys are leaving that spot open deliberately to fill it with someone. It's just a matter of who and how much. And I imagine that maybe this is part of the reason why we haven't seen the Cowboys make a move. Maybe they are, fingers crossed, hoping one of these guys kind of falls to them. I know Mike said anything but tight end with that first pick.
Yeah.
Because it's Dallas, you just can't rule it out.
And listen, this is not our picks. This is what Mel Kiper said. So Mel Kiper, again, I got to remind you guys something. Mel Kiper actually predicted Tyler Smith to be the Cowboys pick last year in the first round.
Wasn't it Bruce? Bruce in the chat, even when we were talking about players and their position and stuff. McCarthy was a tight end. He's taken over the offense now. He has even more influence when it comes to drafting guys or whatever. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go tight end because of that.
He's going to want to get a guy that fits the West Coast scheme. And if this guy can do it, again, he can block as well. So blocking and receiving threat, that is the one-man show at Notre Dame for a little bit.
If he played that safety valve role, how is he not a fit?
He's in the sense of
exactly. So to me, that right away, that lets you know you can use him in a West Coast style offense, and you're going to find success with him.
All right, well, we'll see. Now, I do think this second round pick, Mel Kiper also made the Cowboys second round pick,
all right.
And he said this about Jonathan Mingo, wide receiver. I'm pretty sure he's SMU wide receiver. So I'm sorry, Ole Miss. My fault. Ole Miss.
We've heard that name a few times, but I have to admit again, a little surprising there. Offense. Yep. We went tight end receiver here.
Wide receiver in the second pick, and he said this, Mel Kiper, quote, I thought about a replacement for Ezekiel Elliott here at running back, but Mingo would make an impact on the Cowboys' depth chart. 6'2", 220, great mix of size and speed. He averaged 16.9 yards per catch last year at Ole Miss and was mostly running short routes, meaning he has that run after catch ability, which is West Coast. He said he can break tackles once he gets the ball. So again, a lot of great stuff when you hear Mel Kiper speak about it. But what about the other guys on the board? There's a lot of receivers here that were still available on this Mel Kiper board that you could make a case that Cowboys are better than
basically if the Cowboys have internally one of these guys ranked maybe a little higher than the other,
they'll grab them. Yeah, they might grab them. But Josh Downs from North Carolina, receiver Martin. We know Marvin Mims is a guy the Cowboys have looked at over and over again. He was still available on this list. Cedric Tillman, wide receiver of Tennessee, a guy the Cowboys will look at all these guys here. Tyler Scott, Cincinnati, also on here. And that's the receiver side. Okay, we're a receiver. Who else was available? We talked about running back. Cowboys like Zach Charbonnet from UCLA.
Chardonnay. Sorry, I know. I shouldn't make fun of his name.
And then you look at edge on defensive. Isaiah Foskey was there from Notre Dame as another option if you want to go defensive line. Edge. You want to go offensive line? This is a guy from North Dakota State University. Formerly, he played tight end. I'm pretty sure a bunch of years in college, but now he moved into an offensive lineman position. So again, Cody Mauch from North Dakota State, and then Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. And again, this is a guy that I've talked about in depth. This guy would be, I think, an impactful interior defensive lineman. We could push off a Neville Gallimore and not even bat an eye if we get Keanu Benton in the fucking mix. He would have been my pick there. Just being real about that, Mel Kiper. But hey, Mel Kiper has his thing. And here's the thing, guys. Again, I'm curious to know how you think about this. I'm not a big fan of either of these picks, but I'm not going to say we can't utilize these guys in a positive way. But here's the key. Here's the key quirk to this, baby. Mel Kiper has the Cowboys, like you said, taking a tight end in the first round, a receiver in the second round. The last time the top two picks were skill players, in 95, guys. 95, we got Williams and Watkins in the second round. The last time we got two offensive players with our first two picks of the draft was 2013. We drafted Travis Frederick, and we drafted RIP Gavin Escobar. So both these guys were drafted. That's the last time we went offense. And again, you made that point. You caught both those things.
And not just that, but look at the intention behind that situation. Even though we went offense, it wasn't just like, any old offense there either. So to me, that's why I'm a little bit like tight end and receiver for the first and second round. I can't dismiss it. Just because, again, not just that, but look at our offseason. Where were most of our acquisitions?
90% of acquisitions.
We basically solidified
defense.
our entire defense.
Right.
Almost all the questions that we've been asking are offense. And if we are shifting the team in a new direction, or at least, adjusting it a bit Mike McCarthy style, you have to imagine that maybe part of that does go hand in hand with, okay, let's get him some of the offensive pieces that he wants, the same way that last year we got Quinn some of the defensive pieces that he wanted, a la Damone Clark, Sam Williams. Like, just throwing it out here that, first round pick, I think we're all pretty much on the same page as far as, like, best player available that falls to us that's, like, on our board, which, again, Michael, oh my goodness, what's his last name?
Mayer,
there we go. Michael, I want to send Maher for a second. But yeah, Michael Mayer, tight end, if he ends up falling to us, even I have to admit, I unless the Cowboys really don't like him, I don't see how we don't at least attempt to make a move in that direction.
I think
right?
Mel Kiper, I told you guys they had Avila out there still, a first round pick. They had Benton in the second round. Those would be my picks if I had a choice. So at 26, I'd take Avila if I put a gun in my head. And at 58, with the guys that were left in Mel Kiper's draft, I would have taken Michael Benton. I don't know.
See, I feel stuck between a rock and a hard place because I feel like the smart and rational thing to do is to go with basically any of the 2 or 3 offensive linemen that you mentioned in the first round. But that kind of kooky, crazy, irrational part of me says, what the fuck are you talking about? There's a giant tight end sized hole on your offense that needs filling, and if Michael's there, Maher, whatever, Maserati. I know. If Mayer is there, he kind of has to be the guy.
The only thing I say is that if you have the tight end Mayer there, he's an impact player just off the top. Just and you look at the biggest hole in our team. Like if you're taking the top tight end and you're looking at one of our bigger holes, that matches the best. Like that does match because you're not gonna get the top defensive lineman at that spot. You're not gonna get the top offensive guard at that spot.
Yeah, and there's no way, at least in my mind, like we got very lucky with Tyler Smith and the way that he progressed. I'm not saying whoever we bring in O-line wise wouldn't be able to, progress or do really well or whatever. I just don't expect it to go as nicely as it did when Tyler Smith basically went out there and looked like a starter from day one.
And listen,
that does not happen.
But I also think that Bergeron from Syracuse could be there in the second round, maybe third round. I'm just saying there's a lot of options for offensive linemen, and I just think that if I know Jerry Jones, the way he does his things out there, Michael Mayer, the number one prospect pretty much across the board at tight end, he may be inclined to pick that. But again, like I said,
Lucio Hinojosa literally asked if Avila's there at 26. Drums and Cowboys said if Avila's there, you get Avila.
And that's what I think. That's my pick. But that's not. We're talking about Mel Kiper and what the Joneses may do. And Joneses, they may. I wish they would trade down and get still get Steve Avila there. That's my point. Be rational. If you can trade down, then trade down. But if you can't, you're gonna have to make a reach of some sort probably, or you go for the short thing with the biggest. I guess the most short thing with the biggest hole in your team is tight end.
Yeah, honestly, knowing the Cowboys and their Cowboy style, this is the last thing I'll say on this. At pick 26, the biggest reason we're not going to trade down is because they are sitting there waiting like hungry little fishies to see
who drops
down. And from that drops down list, they're going to pick their favorite guy. They're just going to say, instead of having to reach for someone at 26, they're going to reach but like the other way and just say, look at this great guy that was supposed to be a top 15 pick that we got at 26.
Yeah, they may do that. I know. That would be a receiver maybe, or maybe Michael Mayer would be the guy to do that. But here's the thing. The certain situation right now when there's, I don't know, there's like, how many good tight ends are there in the NFL? Like solid elite guys.
Not too many. There's like 2 or 3 elite ones. And
Travis
the rest
Kelce.
Of them are like almost all on the same level, and then the rest suck.
Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Darren Waller. Who else? That's great. I'm talking about that's like elite. Darren Waller is just getting to the elite stages. So when you get to those,
No, I was genuinely trying to think. I'm like, I swear there was one tight end this
year
that was like a younger guy that was kind of starting.
You were right what you said though. The fact that, and there might be. Listen, we got Kyle Pitts. He can still do something. Yeah. But my point is that there's so few great tight ends. Why would you take an early pick with a tight end? That's the other. I look at it from both angles.
It's one of those same arguments that we've made before when it comes to getting Bijan at 26. Correct. When it comes to running back. There's nothing wrong. I'm sure he'd be a very impactful player. But is it smart to spend your first round pick on a position that you know is just not going to get the same type of impact, let's say, for lack of a better word, impact, I think, in the way that most modern day NFL offenses are looking for, you know?
Yeah, no,
it's just that is unfortunately part of the game.
That's a question you have to ask, yeah.
Also, one of the reasons we're probably talking about Meyer falling to 26 in the first place, because if he does fall, it's because teams in general are valuing the tight end position a little differently. I think the tight end position
differently is the way to say it. Not worse or better.
The tight end position is where the linebacker position was like 10 years ago in the sense of it is transitioning. The things we're asking tight ends to do are changing, and as we see that transition kind of continue to happen, you know, you see certain tight ends do better or worse than others, and I just think we're in a weird spot right now.
Yeah, listen, in the end...
Also, shitty draft class. I'm going to keep saying that. Like, no offense to these guys at all whatsoever.
But you look at the top tight ends in the league, there's 3 of them. Maybe 3 at total, right? It's hard to find the elite guys. It's hard to find the elite tight ends in the draft. And I say elite to find the top 2, 3, 5 guys in the league. In the league. Not in the draft, but in the league. And to justify a high draft pick, I think is what it is. To develop these guys in a manner that you have these elite tight ends out there in the league. So we have 2 solid tight ends. And that's my thing, too. The Cowboys will definitely say, oh, we drafted Ferguson. We, undrafted, he's our guy. Peyton Hendershot, that's our 1 and 2 going into the year. We may draft another guy later in the draft, a tight end, but we got our 2 guys. That's the way the Joneses may be looking at this as well. You got to remember. And you know Jerry Jones loves our own guys. When he sees Ferguson, he's going to say, that's Travis Kelce to him.
Yeah, that's a homegrown Travis Kelce from the red
and that's what
dirt of Dallas.
Jerry Jones believes that to his core. Now, I'm cool with not going with tight end. I understand why we would if we went that way. I just think we got going after a running back at that spot. Now, again, that's why I said Will McDonald was a guy who came and top guy visited. He was on that list. I said Steve Avila. We know he was on that list, a Dallas guy. Mingo, another guy that the Cowboys also brought him in, I think, and we brought him like 6 receivers. So we definitely look at a receiver, and I'm talking about day 1 or 2 receiver without question. We are looking at that, but we talked about this the other day. How many receivers are out there that are really going to be viable, receivers in the NFL making impact? And the reason I say this, baby, is because, well, I'll get to the receivers in a minute, but let's finish with the tight ends real quick. I just want to say one thing, which we have our own 2 tight ends right now in Ferguson and Hendershot. Let's look at some numbers real quick. Jake Ferguson last year, only 22 targets. And that's the issue there, right? 22 targets. That's
not a very good sample size to kind of bet the farm on.
Right. 22 targets, only 3 incompletions, 19 receptions for Ferguson out of his 22 targets. So you throw it to him, he's probably catching it. He had no drops. He averaged 9.2 yards per reception and 6.4 yards after the catch, which I brought up. It's up there with Kelce and Kittle's. Like, he is after the catch master, which is what we need in West Coast offense. So we may have our guy already that McCarthy wants to look for, even if it's not, a rookie or an established guy. We got Snug X. We know he's an established guy, and he definitely ain't no rookie.
Much love, Snug, with a $10 holler.
Snug X in the house.
Appreciate you, much love.
This is 10 right here.
Classic, Go Cowboys. Thank you. And
much
of course,
love,
that does bring Mark down to 74 points
Mark,
there.
It's been a while. It's been like a week and a half since I've seen that 74 up there. Snug X in the house once again. Dropping the love, man. Appreciate you. And again, whether it's Cash App or you don't have Super Chats, but Cash App or PayPal, Venmo, we have available as well.
I think is what you meant to say.
Streamlabs, yes. Streamlabs, PayPal, Cash App. And by the way, we still haven't had a Venmo go through, so I'm not sure how that's working or not, but let us know if anybody does send one through. Let us know so I can double check that and see how that works out. Because we haven't actually... I don't think we ever utilized the Venmo yet.
We haven't flexed it yet, so we don't know exactly how it works for you.
But appreciate that. Much love to Snug X. Always, we know why he's here. We know why. Repping that star, right? Over everything. Appreciate the discussions here, the late night side with Snug X and the rest of the crew here. And then, that's Ferguson, right? 6.4 yards after the catch. When targeted by any quarterback, I don't care, Cooper Rush or Dak Prescott in the NFL, on his 22 targets, 19 catches, the passer rating is 129.9. for the quarterback. So when he's targeted, quarterbacks do well when they target Jake Ferguson. Again, like you said, though, tiny little sample size. Now, what about Peyton Hendershot? Even a smaller sample size. And that could be the big issue about why we're not sure about the tight end situation. That's why you can make a case for Michael Mayer. So when you look at Hendershot, 15 targets, 11 catches. Very efficient there. He had one drop. If you remember that drop, it's against Tennessee, and it was an interception. It was one of Dak's interceptions. Was his drop. Hit his hands and it popped right out and they picked it. So he has one drop, but he's averaging 9.4 yards per catch. That's 20 tenths more than Ferguson, but he's averaging 4.5 yards after catch, right up there with some of the top guys as well. After catching the ball, yards after the catch. So you got Ferguson and Hendershot, athletic. They can block. They're athletic, and they're young guns. They're the wily out there. They're not proven, but they definitely give you the right taste in your mouth going forward when it comes to the tight end position. But then you add another firepower piece in there. You just up it that much more. So I don't know if the Cowboys are going to go that route. Do we need to go that route? 103.6 passer rating when Hendershot was targeted, and again he was only targeted 15 times. But when you look at yards after catch, that's the big focus of a West Coast offense. Yards after catch at tight end. Mark Andrews. All right, when you look at the top tight ends and their yards after catches, Mark Andrews 3.5 yards after the catch. Darren Waller 2.8 yards after the catch. Kelsey 6 yards after the catch. Kyle Pitts 4.8 yards after the catch. Dallas Goedert 7.6 yards after the catch. Dalton Schultz only 3.6 yards, and George Kittle 6.5. Again, 6.5 for Kittle, 6.0 for Travis Kelsey. Waller has 2.8, and Dallas Goedert from the Eagles 7.6, the biggest number here when it comes to yards after the catch. What I'm trying to say here is that you got Bo Ferguson at 6.4 yards per catch, yards after the catch, which is it's up there in the second or third best in the NFL at tight end. And you look at Hendershot, 4.5 yards after catch. That's better than some of these guys I just read to you. Most of these guys, he's better than most of these guys after the catch.
Yeah, like we said,
Ferguson and Hendershot.
It seems like the biggest issue with Ferguson and Hendershot is literally
proven
the size of the numbers. The size of the pool of numbers that we're talking about here, right?
Exactly.
Because they obviously contributed.
Right.
They did stuff.
It's nice.
They weren't
out
there doing enough, at least this past year, for us to you show me those numbers on anyone, I would say, yeah, that's great, that's all, but that's
small
like
sample
an
size.
Infant in football terms.
Correct.
Like that's still a toddler.
The future is bright. It looks really nice, but the provenness is not there, and I'm not trying to make a point for Mel Kiper. Actually, I started off tonight saying I got to agree with Mel Kiper, but the more I'm looking into it, I'm like, we have some great futures here, but then if we draft, the thing is drafting another guy here in the first pick, we're going to lose one of these guys.
Tight end out of all the kind of needs on this.
Ignore her.
Anyway, tight end out of all the needs on this team feels like the one that we can get away the most with as far as either drafting a little later and still getting someone quality, or just picking up a free agent and still getting someone quality and cheap. Right?
And,
like cheap quality.
Expensive draft capital is not probably a wise decision, right, for tight end. So I'm just throwing out all the different options and things to marinate for everyone to think about and comment below about. So I move over to the receivers for a second, because the receiver spot is the other spot where you can see Jerry Jones. there's Asha. You can see Jerry Jones making an attempt to, make an impactful, wide receiver pick, right? So I want to make sure we make something clear here. And this was actually yesterday's kind of news information there. NFL is not as high on this year's receiver class as maybe as the media is, or fans out there are. Right now, guys, you're seeing, and you look at mock drafts. How many receivers you see drafted in these mock drafts? At least, almost every time I see 4 to 5 receivers drafted in the first round. 4 to 5 receivers drafted in the first round in pretty much every mock draft. Is that really the reality, guys? Numerous teams from the actual organizations around the league have said that all these teams have one first round grade on a wide receiver. Only one receiver. Only one. Most teams out there have one.
Do these teams agree on which receiver?
Yeah, Jackson Smith Njigba.
Okay.
He's the guy. And I'm going to call him JSN to make it easy. But he is the guy that should be the first receiver drafted this year. And maybe the only first-round guy at receiver graded-wise by the NFL grades. So, again, even less of a reason why the Cowboys should even look at taking a first-round receiver. I know I'm cutting this down. Talking about tight end. We know about running back already. Talk about tight end and talk about receiver. I mean, to me, it leaves guard. Offensive line is the viable spot.
I feel like you're also making a case for why we wouldn't get one in the second round, unless, of course, like I said, we're getting a late second round guy that we think should have been a late first round guy.
And that may very well happen. Cowboys may have a high second round grade on a receiver that they get in the end of the second round. That's more likely than a first round, because right now every team is saying first round grade just like JSN. That's it. That's the only guy should be drafted. Now there'll be other guys drafted in this draft at receiver. Hopefully not us being that team getting Zay Flowers or something like this. So
I honestly, that's one of the few kind of like things that has been thrown out there that I don't see the Cowboys doing that, especially considering, again, we got CeeDee Lamb, we have Michael Gallup, we just brought in some outside help. Like, whatever receiver we get is not going to be that type of situation or investment or whatever. Like, there's no need for the Cowboys to do that.
Remember, we have
second round after?
We got Brandon
First
Cooks.
round,
We got Brandon Cooks.
It better be Jubin. That's the only guy.
Well, he ain't going to be there in the second round.
That's my point.
I know.
Not second round. First round. That's what I'm saying. If he somehow falls to 26, then you can make an argument for the Cowboys drafting a receiver in the first round. Outside of that, everything else can wait till the second round.
I want to say one other thing. Brandon, we got Gallup here, and his deal can be kind of moved away from next year. Of course, CeeDee Lamb, we're going to have to extend him, right? But Brandon Cooks is here this year and next year. Remember, guys, next year he's here for $10 million. When they throw the money forward, it's $8 million now, but it'll be $10 million. This year it's $4 million, but it'll be $6 on the cap. Next year it's going to be $8, but it's going to be $10 on the cap. And what I'm trying to say is Brandon Cooks is here for this year and next year. So do we have to have a rush to go get a receiver now? We can do that next year and go high-value receiver to replace the eventual Brandon Cooks hole or Gallup hole. They're both going to be holes, though, if we don't replace either of them. So that's something that's going to be touched on, but maybe more next year or maybe later in this draft. We'll see. Now, it is a deep draft at tight end, deep draft at receiver, but not really high value in receiver or tight end. Like, you're going to grab these guys in top 10 kind of picks. No, not many out there is my point. Not really any. And at receiver, even less. JSN is the only true number one, true first rounder, and that could be 15th pick or 23rd pick. I don't know. Maybe it's us. My point is, if he's there, the Cowboys will probably grab him. So the point is this. When you look at the grinding mocks, when you put them, and there's this website that does this, they have only one receiver in the first round prospect range, and of course it's JSN. And again, a lot of first round prospects are only graded up to like the 15th pick or something like this. Anything after that, they consider that could be into the second round. There's two of them. One of them is put at 19 at receiver.
Okay.
So, but the 19th receiver is really second round, almost a high second round grade. So you can see how these guys here really only JSN is the only guy cracking the numbers there. But here's the thing, guys: the public media, and you see a lot of people doing mock drafts and stuff like this versus the NFL. And I'm talking reality. Fuck the mock drafts. Fuck fantasy football. Reality versus mock. And the NFL is in agreement on this, guys, that that receivers are definitely overvalued by the media right now. Just saying, guys. So, and again, this is they're at odds. These public media mocks.
Definitely an interesting new trend, just because I do feel like in the last handful of years that is one of the few positions that's had, I think, a big explosion in talent just overall. Basically, I hate to say it, but from like Odell on, especially as receivers become more and more important, you see them become more and more important. So
no, I know, but receivers are important depending on what your scheme is, what you're planning on doing with your team, who's coming and going. You look at Jackson Smith and Jabba, and Jibba. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm saying Jibba, but from Ohio, from Oklahoma State and OSU, he's a consensus first rounder by every team pretty much. Already had a top 30 visit with the Falcons, and he's scheduled to meet with other top 30 visits here, like the Ravens, the Texans, the Bills, and Dallas Cowboys. So we are bringing him in and checking him out, guys. Ohio, and I don't know why I say Oklahoma State. He's Ohio State. How dumb I am in mind this. But Ohio State wide receiver, JSN, he spoke about his meeting with the Cowboys. He actually met with the Cowboys, and he said he had a good meeting. Nice. He said one of the benefits of living in a football-rich kind of area, like for the Cowboys, Jackson Smith said that my visit, quote, falls in, no, he didn't say this, but it was a Dallas Day visit. So it was not a top 30 visit. Let me clarify that. He's a Dallas area guy. So he was eligible to come to the Cowboys and not use one of our top 30 visit picks. Yeah, it's just big, guys. We only get 30 guys. That's it. So now we get bonus guys from the area, like Steve Avila that we brought in, like Jackson Smith Ninjaba, right? So again, guys, he grew up in Rockwall, Texas. He does not count against the 30 national, visit limitation, which is great. He's just a Dallas guy, which is even better for us. But the reality is he won't be falling to the Cowboys. Let's be honest about this. He will probably now fall to the Cowboys at 26.
But you never know, I guess.
That'd be the number one receiver in the draft.
Until he's gone, it's still technically a possibility.
Consensus first round pick, there's not going to be 25 other teams that go by him. But then we look at this, guys, and you look at, I've seen some mock drafts of all this stuff, but I looked at a new guy on my list here, and his name is from Tennessee, Darnell Wright, offensive lineman. And a lot of people say, guys, that they can see the Cowboys taking a chance. And you guys tell me what you think about. I really haven't talked about Darnell Wright too much. But a lot of people say they can see the Cowboys taking Darnell Wright at 26. He's a tackle, but they say moving him to left guard is one of possible scenarios. You can see he struggled. He did struggle, according to most analysts. He struggled playing left tackle. And it was funny, baby, because the similar issues he had at left tackle, it's going to be mitigated. Those issues will be solved if he moves to left guard. Does that sound familiar?
A little bit.
Last year?
I think I might have heard that refrain somewhere.
Maybe a Tyler Smith. Maybe. Tyler Smith had issues on the outside. Was lackluster.
Oh yes, that Tyler Smith, that guy.
Tyler Smith had issues at left tackle in college, holding, not getting set right, and pass blocking. Great run blocker. Well, this Tennessee player here, offensive lineman Darnell Wright, Tennessee, he struggled at left tackle. And his issues will be mitigated at left guard. Which, hey, there's an opening at left guard for us. So,
gee, what a coincidence.
Darnell Wright, don't overlook him. And he had a little incident with the media here. Because he went after the media in DMs. Because of some poor draft analysis about him. Willie Lutz actually said, quote, Darnell is a pure right tackle and has no business playing left tackle. He responded with saying this, quote, you're a pure dick eater. What year did you play to say anybody has any business doing anything? After saying that got out, and then he criticized it. He said, quote, I probably was a little heavy on the specific choice of words. I'm no choir boy, but this, when someone says I can't do something, it really grinds my gears. At Will Lutz, it's all good. You were probably actually defending me a bit. Appreciate that. Maybe we'll do a podcast in Cincy one day. So just funny. They made up, but I'm just saying it was interesting. I'm just saying it was interesting to see. And again, Willie Lutz, pretty sure he's a football player out there.
You learn something new every day.
Just saying, Darnell Wright at 26, is he the kind of guy the Cowboys try to take and move into the Tyler Smith kind of vein and say left tackle? No, left guard. Everyone's saying right tackle. Well, you got Terrence Steele. Is he going to be 100%? You just never know. Terrence Steele's a swing tackle. You got Tyron Smith then. We could throw out a million reasons you can get a guy who can play guard and tackle. So, again, we're talking right tackle and left guard, not left tackle, which has already been filled by who? Tyler Smith. Anyways, in the last position, the last thing I'm going to talk about here, it's really about Dan Quinn, but cornerbacks. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people say, we were talking cornerback. Last year, baby. If I'm not mistaken, last year we were talking about, who'd be the first pick this year for us. You know what I mean?
Oh, man, you hear a dog.
I know. So, maybe. No, it's just...
I'm just checking something here real quick.
No.
By the way, real quick, I do think we have to stop for a second.
Okay.
We do have...
What happened? I missed
If I'm not mistaken, our first Venmo drop.
Is it?
So, that's not going to show up on screen. That's kind of along the lines of the Cash App situation. But if I'm not mistaken, the man SnugX just did drop.
He did.
A $10
I got to figure this out. Let me see how this goes, guys.
So...
There we go.
It's part of the live show.
There it is. Yeah. Hey, first time. Again, does he have anything he wants to... Let me see here.
The inaugural drop. Did he say?
Yes, the inaugural drop. Yeah, he said Cowboys. Cowboys. If you want to wait till day 3, meaning rounds 4, 5, 6, or 7 for cornerback, that's what I was trying to say earlier. We were talking last year. That's why I got deflected there. But we were talking last year about, who would be our first pick at position-wise, going into... next year's draft, right? Last year at this time, we were saying, in 2023, we'll probably go for cornerback. That was a thought. During the year, we were saying cornerback because of the issues we were having there at depth. But right now, with this guy right here, Stephon Gilmore, if the Cowboys want to wait on cornerback into the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round like we did with DeRon Bland, some potential targets that would fit the Cowboy model, the Dan Quinn model of things. Terrell Smith, who's got the 32, again, his arm length, the arm length threshold, 32.78 is exactly, falls right into that the Dan Quinn defensive cornerback. Rajon Wright, 32.5 is his arm length. Nick Jones, 32 3/8. Carrington Valente, 32 1/4, and Eli Ricks, who again, 32 3/8. It all meets the Dan Quinn threshold on length and size and all that stuff, arm length. But Eli Ricks to me is one of the
interesting choice of words there.
What?
Nothing.
Well, arm length, yeah. But you're off the rails, baby.
Sorry, just saying like.
Eli Ricks to me is the guy that I would focus on. Last year I told you guys DeRon Bland. I said it since January last year. DeRon Bland is the guy I'm looking like the 5th, 6th round. I'm looking at like the 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. Somewhere in these rounds in day 3, look at Eli Ricks, possible 4th rounder. I don't know. We'll see at cornerback. I think he would have that kind of impact, similar as DeRon Bland. I had the same possibility. Again, will he see the field a lot? Probably not, because we got 4 solid guys there. Could he make it easier for one of these guys to get on out? Like Kelvin Joseph, Deshaun Wright? Hell yeah. So I'm just saying there's some day 3 guys here that have potential. But if you really want to look at who Dan Quinn wants, let's get just to the crumbs, the breadcrumbs that he leaves. Because, baby, wherever he goes, last year he went to Ole Miss, worked out Sam Williams, got Sam Williams, right? So when you look at Dan Quinn, he always offers clues and hints of who the Cowboys are targeting. Now, whether it's his choice or he was told to go, or this is the kind of locations he's sent to. But the point is that the Cowboys targeted certain spots here on defense, and through Dan Quinn, you can see it, right? Wherever he was, we actually drafted in those same veins. Wherever Dan Quinn was last year, or his coaching staff. Let's look at this year. Ohio State. At Ohio State, we had Dan Quinn and Will McClay and 3 other guys. It's a lot of Dan.
So obviously Ohio State, the new Boise State.
Alabama, Dan Quinn was there. Iowa, Dan Quinn was there. At Wisconsin, because we know about Michael Benton, right? Mm-hmm. Defensive line coach Aiden Dirty was there. Adam Dirty. He was there. The right-hand man at the defensive line spot for Dan Quinn. And remember, I'm going to say it again, Wisconsin, Keanu Benton. Keanu Benton was there, and I'm telling you, he's a defensive one-tech, a nose tackle type guy. So there's a little breadcrumb. You also have TCU. They had John Fossil was there at TCU. Okay. John Fossil was also at Maryland. Now, our defensive backs coach, Joe Witt Jr., Al Harris, they were at Mississippi State. At Ole Miss, at Mississippi State. Then we had some guys at Boise State. There's unknown contingency. But then we had Brian Schottenheimer, offensive coordinator, who's really Mike McCarthy, but he was sent out to UNC. Remember, there's a receiver out there that we talked about a minute ago that was hanging around the 58 spot. So Brian Schottenheimer out there, we had some guys going to Micah's old stomping ground at Penn State. We had some guys there unknown. Multiple members of the Cowboy staff was at the SMU Pro Day. Mm-hmm. Also some guys of the Cowboy staff unknown at Delaware. And then Aiden Dirty, USC. All right. So again, we're seeing some names here again that you can probably throw in there, some corners, some edge guys, an interior defensive player like Benton from Wisconsin. You see the Cowboys may be kind of favoring these guys a little more, even if some of these guys didn't come into the top 30 visits, Yeah. Asha,
can we help you?
Even if they didn't come down to the top 30 visits, even if they haven't, the Cowboys are looking at guys around them at that position, not at that specific player, you might see some of these guys at Dan Quinn, Aiden Dirty, and other guys on the Cowboys staff, that Will McClay included, that the Cowboys are out there and they're bringing people to these places for a reason. It's interesting, though, that I think that most of these squads we're seeing of Cowboy personnel getting sent out there, most of us is defense. Again, defense, special teams, or Will McClay. So just something to keep an eye on.
And that's why
we know McCarthy knows how to look at some of the offensive
by Mel
stuff.
Kiper's kind of situation, just because when it comes to offense in general, like even in the draft, like it does seem like we're almost leaning more defense.
It does seem like that.
At least based on the guys we brought in, based on what we've seen as far as the Cowboys' interest. But you pointed this out, rightfully so. Tyler Smith was not someone we necessarily showed too much active interest in.
We showed no interest.
And then we ended up drafting him.
We showed no interest in him.
Maybe the Cowboys are using some of the obvious defensive
moves or
situations
to
maybe obfuscate what we're trying to do on offense.
Do you remember what we did, though? Do you remember what we did with Tyler? We didn't bring in Tyler Smith to the top 30, but we looked at a million different offensive linemen. on our top 30 visits in Dallas Day guys. So and they were not guys in the second or third or fourth rounds. They were guys in first round mindsets for the Cowboys. So,
which again, our 30 visits this year are a little bit more just generally scattered overall.
You would look at this list and say a lot of receivers initially, a lot of receivers, but a lot of these receivers are now kind of falling in second round grades. So really, second round looks like more receiver than the first round, even though initially it looked like these guys are, these are first rounders. No, technically by NFL standards, they're second rounders when it comes to a lot of these receivers. And the Cowboys bringing them in, they bring in a lot in. Seems like the Cowboys want to hit in that day 2 for receiver, not day 1, not round 1 for receiver. At least that's what I'm looking at right now. That's what I'm kind of trying to figure things out without mock drafts and bullshit, using the reality of things. And Dan Quinn, wherever he goes, Cowboys seem to follow. You've seen the trace here of different places that he's been, and the guys that kind of maybe more focused on than others. Even if we don't bring them in, we're bringing guys in around that position that maybe we liked and saw at these pro days, and don't want to bring too much attention to that. So we'll have to see. I don't know what the Cowboys' strategy is, but we know they usually bring in their top 30 guys, and we usually draft these guys. But like you said, and we said it the other day, Tyler Smith was a guy that Cowboys kind of kept under wraps. And we brought in a lot of offensive linemen, first-round quality guys, drafted a first-round offensive lineman, but none of them we brought in. We never brought this guy in. So that's the big difference.
And Thomas Garrett saying, I saw a mock draft showing that Wright came to Dallas.
That who?
Right? Didn't you just mention him?
I'm trying to think which player here, which Wright. Oh, Rajon Wright? Okay, I need to know. There's a lot of Wrights out there. But yes, Rajon Wright from the cornerback, a guy that the Cowboys, again, are interested in, but also a possible, I'm going to say this, 4th, 5th, 6th round guy. Not a first or second round guy. So you got to look at context with who the guys bring in, the Cowboys bring in. These guys are not going to be, they're going to go after a first round cornerback. They're going after day 3 cornerbacks, the Cowboys. At least that's what it seems. When you follow Quinn around, McClay around, even Fossil and Schottenheimer on for their duties, they're looking at different positions and different things here. Most of what we're seeing here is defense in the draft, in later draft areas, in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds. First round, still a question mark as far as I'm concerned, as far as who we're gonna make the decision on that first round. We haven't really brought in any tight ends that are first rounders or anything like that. I don't know if we brought in Dalton Kincaid. So we'll see what happens as more time goes down here. Again, we got 15 days. We have basically got 2 weeks to go before the draft. So we'll know a lot more as every day goes forward. I'm starting
to finally get actually excited for the draft. So
we're on the horizon, and we're on the horizon here of ending the stream tonight, guys. It is almost a done deal. Could not do this without your guys' drops of love from above and your support. And again, I gotta say it through the different ways that we have here, guys, because it's kind of a
and now officially through all the ways.
Officially, yes. Snug X, who did it, guys. Again, you see the ways that supported the channel. We had Cash App drops today. Snug X, right?
Randy
Stites, Cash App drops. $ MyCowboysFamily. Venmo at my-Cowboys-Family. And the first drop of our history here in MCF by the man Snug X.
Woo.
Appreciate him as always. PayPal, of course, we had drops through there. Through different times, and it could be any time for that one.
Skeptical had the pre-stream PayPal drop.
And then the message on screen, which is also PayPal. But again, you can see it's just Streamlabs. Much love to those that have done that. I think we had Snug twice today. Skeptical Fan as well, pre-streaming it. That's where you get your super chat styled message on screen. And that's the way you can help the channel. Be on the weekly sponsor leaderboard and maybe just become that sponsor of the month's week. Cash App King, which by the way, the sponsor of the last 2 months. 8 weeks in a row.
Respect on that name.
Marco Seppian.
Mahalo to you, Mark. Appreciate you, of course. And he's rocking it with 74 points on the stream boss as well.
Yeah, so much love to Mr. Marco Seppian on both of those sides of things. And, of course, when you look at the Cash App side of things, we know who's been repping that crown in here for the last 2 weeks, back-to-back. Jason Renfro, baby. Whoop, she's gone for a second. There's Jason Renfro repping that Randy White jersey from the 80s. But, yes, Jason Renfro is the king of the Cash App. But, baby, even though we had drops in the Cash App by Randy Stites, the guy who's taking the lead right now is none other than Snug X. And not only here, in where the crown is right here, the Cash App, he's also first place on the overall board. He's got a Venmo drop, Cash App drop, PayPal drop. He's got drops going left and right. Much love to the man Snug X, who's currently the leader on both boards. Coming for that crown and in first place on the overall. So appreciate him once again, Snug X, making his mark this week here on our kickoff of the week here on a Tuesday. So let's hit up the I guess we have the chat real quick in our goodbyes and our
last
comments.
Yeah, Monroe said your dog wants the mic. Yeah, she does. She has lots to say right now. Most of it being play with me, give me attention.
Yeah, it's baffling because we kind of all we do is that.
Yeah, so how much more love and attention does a tiny dog need? I don't know. Apparently more. But Snug X, much love. Appreciate that, of course, as always. Thomas Garrett, the superior. Garrett. Randy Stites coming through representing as well. Beast Mode in the house. We have Jumps and Cowboys. Mike Aldana. Let me see. Who else is here? Bruce got the Toxic Juice.
Make sure you guys hit
Brandon James Shane, much love to you.
Hit that thumbs up, that like, subscribe if you're new, notification bell for all videos. Follow us on Twitter at MyCowboysFamily, Discord. Join that up. Fun, free football, 24/7, 365. You know the deal.
Lucio Hinojosa, what's up? Much love to you as well. Tyler, have a great night. Rolando Rodriguez, stay safe.
Also, share it out. Share it and hit the like, guys, for every one of our streams. Share it on your channels. Share it out in your social media. And the more family members,
spread the MCF word.
Keep growing this thing. Let's go.
So, Tyler, what's up? We have Eric Black 60, Aztec Aguilar 04.
Oh, shit. Stephon Gilmore.
Q Ball, Burn Bar. Oh,
man. I love it.
So, let me see. Big Boss Man, much love to you. Scorpio representing. I think that's as far back as I can go. Stephen White, much love to you. So, but yes,
before I see that.
Before we take this dog and
give her up to the dog
hunt her across the room, and that is obviously
a joke.
Just a joke, guys. We don't.
I'm gonna get the animal abuse charges with your verbals,
guys. This dog is the most spoiled dog ever, as you can tell. So, with that said. Yes, our dog is ready for the draft. She's just she's
more ready than us.
She's ready to go. So here, let me grab her so she can say goodnight too.
Yeah.
Since you want to talk so much, come over here.
So anyway, she comes to get her, and then the dog, then Asha runs away.
Oh, no,
she's like, "No, leave me alone. I don't want your attention."
Go ahead, do your shit talking now. So, why
do we
do what we do here?
Why? It's about the what, baby?
It's that navy blue, that silver too, and that star. Over everything.
You know it, guys. Win, lose, or draw, good, bad, or ugly here. We're always repping that star over everything, right? And of course, guys, here on this channel, here almost nightly, no matter what, guys, here on MCF, My Cowboys Family, never forget the number one thing here, now and forever. As always, say it loud, say it proud. You know what's coming. Go Cowboys! Let's get that 6 and beyond. And beyond. She wants to eat my hand. There you go. All right, guys. Thank you for rocking with us once again here on MCF over here in the chat. Dropping your knowledge all night long. Dropping the love. God, truly cannot do this without you guys here. Snug X, Randy Stites, Skeptical Fan. Truly appreciate your love and support here on MCF, My Cowboys Family. And, of course, before we can drop out of here, officially for the night, baby, and clock out, drop out, the whole thing, what do we got to do before we get out of here? And I guess it's not really we can't drop the beat anymore. So we can't.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
What do we got to do before we drop out of here, baby, for the night?
We got to drop the beat.
The beat's been dropped, everybody. Thank you once again for chilling with us here on My Cowboys Family.
The organic beat drop, you know?
Yeah, guys. Again, remember, we'll be back tomorrow, maybe. But definitely Thursday for another one here at My Cowboys Family. MCF, you know the deal.